Welcome back to News Talk. Virginia lawmakers have wrapped up their session for the year, the last 60 days, seeing dramatic debate and action on a wide range of issues. And joining us now here in the studio, State Senator Barbara Favola. She's a Democrat whose district includes Arlington, Fairfax, and Loudoun. Delegate Tim Hugo's here. He's a Republican whose district includes parts of Fairfax and Prince William. I hope I got all that right. Thanks for coming in. Good to see you. I know it's been
good to see you.
Kind of a busy 2 months, so we're grateful that you're here on this first opportunity for us to talk about this year's session. Let's begin with an issue, the seeds of which were planted before you all even got to Richmond. As folks will recall, Virginia had reciprocity when it came to concealed carry with other states. The Attorney General Mark Herring decided that the standards many other states use for deciding who should be allowed to concealed carry didn't match Virginia's relatively high standards, so he said, okay, we're going to pull the plug on the reciprocity that we've typically enjoyed with states like Tennessee. That got people really angry and in a perhaps unpredictable way led to a deal that Governor McAuliffe cut with the Republicans who controlled the Assembly. What did you all make? Tell us briefly about where things finally ended up, because it's pretty interesting stuff. And what did you all make of the final product?
I think the governor negotiated a fairly good deal. It certainly wasn't perfect. None of these deals are. There's give and take on both sides. But the NRA and the Citizens Defense League felt very strongly that reciprocity should be restored, period. So they wanted the Attorney General's ruling to be overturned because the Attorney General, as you just explained, was only going to go forward with reciprocity if the standards in certain states were at least as high as the standards in Virginia. They wanted that overturned, and in exchange, the governor said, we need to really get some gun safety measures through, and the focus was on domestic violence, victims of domestic violence. So we were able to get a firearm removed from those on protective orders, which was a big step forward, and we feel that it will make a huge difference in terms of keeping women and families safe. And you know, I think all sides could claim some victory.
What did you make of the final product?
But it wasn't the NRA. It was people in Virginia. We were getting emails from all over the Commonwealth, people saying what the Attorney General has done is wrong. And so what we did is worked out an agreement with the governor on reciprocity in many states, also, as Barbara said, on protective orders, but also there's a voluntary background check at the gun shows now. This was something where everybody got a win, but it also protected the Second Amendment, which I think was under attack by the Attorney General.
I'm curious, what was wrong with the Attorney General before the session put out a long sort of defense or a long explainer of what he did, comparing why Virginia, you know, the steps one has to go through, the things one has to sort of do or be to qualify for concealed carry, and it did seem like there was some notable differences. What was it about his action that got people upset?
I think the intent, the Attorney General's Democrat and Republican over many years had said is, if you have reciprocity with other states, we want to work with you. The Attorney General had a different interpretation this one. I think you'll see the General Assembly agreed with the people of Virginia and agreed with what we ended up with, thought the Attorney General had overstepped.
Well, that was a bone of contention. The Attorney General was merely issuing an opinion that followed the laws that the General Assembly had passed. I mean, it was the General Assembly who had passed the requirements for concealed carry. So what the Attorney General was saying is, I want to follow your laws. You've made a statement, General Assembly. You said you don't want folks who have lesser standards carrying concealed weapons. So I'm going to take the laws that you pass and merely apply them across the board. So it was a bone of contention, this reciprocity rollback, if you will. Because remember, we now are going to have reciprocity with states who, you know, don't necessarily have training for gun safety requirements,
and the General Assembly
have other requirements.
And the General Assembly said they disagree with the Attorney General. And that's why this new law was passed and was signed into agreement by the governor. Note, the Attorney General did not show up at the bill signing, where Democrats and Republicans showed up with the governor to sign this bill.
Causing some heartburn within the
Some of the gun safety advocates in the Bloomberg constituency, they were upset. They don't think that we got as good a deal as we should have received. And in large part, it's because so many states don't have the high standards Virginia has on the concealed gun permit process. You know, the governor decided it was a deal worth making. We do have that. We're trying to close the gun show loophole. It's not a tight close. It's, you know, it's a voluntary background check, but we will have state police at these gun shows now. And dealers will, we hope, encourage potential
and that's why I voted for this with the bipartisan majority. I think Barbara didn't. I think that we just had a disagreement.
No, I did vote for parts of this. I did not vote for every part of the deal.
Let's talk about transportation, because we saw a real debate and action this year in the Virginia General Assembly on the issue of I-66 inside the Beltway, whether to widen, whether to toll, what the timing of all of that should be. I guess we'll start with you, Senator, because your district either is in this area or very close to it. You are
very close to it.
You were on the Arlington board, so you certainly understand historically what the sensitivity has been. For the people listening, let's begin by talking about where things ended up.
Well, where things ended up, I think, is a good place. What happened is we now have a framework where VDOT, in fact, will create a third lane from the intersection of the Beltway and I-66 heading east to the Boston area, which is really the Fairfax exit off Fairfax Street exit off of 66. There'll be a third lane there. Tolling will take place, you know, in 2017. The tolling will start, and then by 2020, a two-person car will be paying toll as well. A third-person vehicle will not, and this would be, you know, the same under the same hours and rush hour time constraints that we currently have.
The classic compromise, lots of discussion, lots of debate, ending up in a place where everyone, Tim, could probably claim something they liked, even if there were things in there they didn't care for.
There's a little bit in there. I think people are still concerned about the tolling and how much this is going to be all the way out from Arlington to Nokesville to out to the Valley. I think people need to really worry about that. But I'm glad Arlington has been the big holdup over the last 30 years on a lane inside the Beltway. This was something I think people were glad we're doing. I think it'll make a difference in the commute. It's a good thing for that, just that lane. We'll still have concerns and debate about the tolling. I think the other thing, too, talking about transportation, remember there was an effort to, again, raise the gas tax. And that was defeated. I think we had already been down that road before, and that was something that passed the Senate, and we voted to defeat that in the House.
The gas tax bill actually would have set a floor. Because what's happening is there's been such a variation in price, and the price at the pump has gotten so low that we're not actually gaining the revenue we should be gaining, and that's been a problem. So we're just trying to plan. We wanted to set a floor, and you know, the fact of the matter is it would not really be noticed by the consumer. However, we had heated debate on that, and that the way that bill was structured just didn't pass.
Was this year when Governor McAuliffe made peace with the fact that he's likely to have a Republican-controlled assembly during his time in office, and therefore there can be stalemate, or there can be a lot of give and take, which might even mean making some of his closest allies sort of question, are we giving up too much? Why are we doing all this? But was this a different Terry McAuliffe in 16 than we had seen before?
I don't think so. You know, I think the governor has always been willing to make a deal. He's a businessman. He's very good at it. He's brought, you know, hundreds of jobs to the Commonwealth, and he's had more investment in the Commonwealth than any of his previous governors for this time period. So it's in his DNA. I think that the General Assembly has maybe become accustomed to the governor a little bit more, and there's a little bit more of a hand-in-glove fit, which is nice. But remember, in a compromise mode, you know, nobody's completely happy. So in the press tend to pick up on the anxiety that each of the stakeholder groups has, rather than looking at the total picture.
Did you sense a new willingness to engage and try to come up with half a loaf? Come away with half a loaf?
I think he's probably accepted the fact that the Republicans are in control for his term. I think you're absolutely right. And I think, look what we've done. Republicans put in a lot more for $900 million more for K through 12, which is a big thing for our schools. There's a 2% pay raise for the teachers in the first year of the budget. There's more money for higher ed and we've also capped tuition increases at 3%.
Well, I think
these are things that we are working for, we're working with. I think the governor will have to accept it. I think he finally accepted he's not going to get the Obamacare expansion he wanted, because if you want to continue that fight, then it's something we can have that fight. I don't want to fight. I want to get things done for folks.
The governor is very pragmatic, and the governor actually identified areas in the budget where he wanted investment, and he came forward with a very, very robust budget in K through 12. And fortunately, the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans saw the value in that. I mean, the governor is really concerned about training our workforce for the future, and the way to do that is to ensure we have a world-class K through 12 system. And this budget, and I am grateful for the bipartisan support we had with it, this budget will allow schools to hire more teachers, to reduce class size, to put dollars into areas where they've got educationally at-risk kids. This budget will make a difference in K through 12.
When the Republicans put hundreds of millions more than the governor proposed, it was a big deal. And because we're dedicated to making sure that, right, our schools are funded appropriately, because they're the seed corn for the next generation.
Talking with Virginia State lawmakers Tim Hugo and Barbara Favola, both back from Richmond after the conclusion of the 60-day session that has in fact concluded. We'll take a break. We are, though, back with more News Talk right after this.